Starting five of Tar Heels who never won a national championship? Oh, I am all over this.
This is Tyler Hansbrough, and you're listening to Locked On Tar Heels.
You are Locked On Tar Heels, your daily podcast on the UNC Tar Heels. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey there, what's up? It's Monday, December 16th, 2024. Welcome in to the Locked On Tar Heels podcast, the only daily North Carolina show out there. I'm your host, Isaac Shade, and you're joining me at the place to get your Tar Heels content every single day. It's part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Thank you sincerely for making this your first listen or watch of the day. It means so much that you would come join us. Special shout out to all the everydayers who are here, all the members of the Locked On Tar Heels Discord, and of course our Locked On Tar Heels insiders. It's a great day to get after it. It is a mailbag Monday, and this mailbag episode is brought to you by FanDuel. You can start the season with a big return on FanDuel. New customers, you get a $5 bet, and if you win, you'll get started with $150 in bonus bets. Man, that's a great deal. Check it all out at FanDuel.com. Look, just as a reminder, I was not around this weekend. I'm just coming off of vacation with my family. In fact, pre-recorded this. I am not technically back yet. I get back late Monday night. And so if there's been movement this weekend, whether it's staff hires for football, commitments from football perhaps, or any other kind of news related to the Bill Belichick circus, nothing on that today. The LaSalle game from Saturday, nothing on that right now. We'll get to all of that, anything that's big on Tuesday's show, because I'll be back and raring to go. So if I say something that is now false, I ask your forgiveness in advance. But today, as I said, Mailbag Monday, a ton of great questions coming in, basketball related, Bill Belichick related, Santa Claus related. I love these, man. If you want to get in on our next mailbag, make sure you're sending these. I give priority to our Locked On Tar Heels insiders. That's one of the perks of being an insider here with the program. If you want to join that, the link is in the show notes. Would love to have you. It's a great way to get deeper with the show. But man, I love these questions. You know, sometimes they're very specific Carolina related. I love it when people send personal questions. I love to open up my personal life to you because this is our show and we want to get to know each other better. That said, there's a ton to get to today and I don't want to miss any of them. So let's get right on to it. Number one, this one comes from one of our insiders, Connor Hutchings. Connor says, here's a fun one to make you think. That's a terrible start, Connor. I don't ever like to think if I don't have to. So yeah, I still answered your question anyway. No. Connor says, if you had to come up with a starting five to win a natty with, composed of former Tar Heels who didn't or haven't yet won a national championship, who are you picking? So basically a starting five of Tar Heels that didn't win a national championship to go win one. So here's how I approach this. Number one, you know, with like all American teams or all ACC teams, it doesn't have to necessarily be a team that could actually go on the floor. I chose to do this question as though it, because of Connor's, you know, conceit here, that it was a team that would go win the national championship. I've actually made a team that could work together. Secondly, I struggled so hard to get one of each. So instead of a starting five, I have a starting five and the guys coming up off the bench to relieve them. So we'll go position by position, starting with point guard. Point guard, Phil Ford. How could we start anywhere else? Third in points and assists at Carolina all time. One of the absolute greats, has only been passed in points by some guy named Tyler Hansbrough and this dude named Armando Bacot that played for 5 years. So there's that. My other point guard, Ed Cota. Come on, man. What are we talking about? Most assists in UNC history. One of those Tar Heels that it is a travesty that he doesn't have a national championship, multiple Final Fours. Ugh, you hate it. At the shooting guard position, obviously, as we get to shooting guard and wings and stuff, it gets a little positionally murky, but we'll just roll with it. Here, I went with Charlie Scott and Marcus Page. Marcus Page, just because he deserves it because of everything that happened to him. One of the greatest shots in NCAA tournament history, wiped from most people's minds because, you know, something else that happened. At the small forward position, I'm going with Vince Carter and Harrison Barnes. Enough said. At the four, one of Vince's teammates, give me Antawn Jamison. Yes, he's 10th in points all time at Carolina, 8th in rebounds, 1998 National Player of the Year. And the other player at the four, Billy Cunningham. Come on, what are we doing? 5th overall pick in the NBA draft, 21st in points, 5th in rebounds. That dude was doing it all the time. And my centers, both of my centers are more recent players, and that would be Bryce Johnson. I had to put him in along with Marcus Page because so close. I hurt so much for those two guys to not win, and then the team win it the next year after they left. Ugh. Bryce is 20th all-time in points, 7th in rebounds. And then Armando Bacot, man, he just gave so much to this program. 2nd in points, 1st in rebounds, 1st in double-doubles, so many things. And basically, I think the Tar Heels in 22 are an Armando Bacot healthy ankle away from winning that national championship. So similar to Marcus, I think Armando deserves to be on it. I could have made 3 or 4 more other teams like this, but those are the 10 guys that I chose. I'd love to know who you would go with, folks, if you're doing this, whether it's Connor or others. All right, next question. We got a truck. Doug Nadler, another one of our Locked On Tar Heels insiders. Doug says, what Tar Heel players with retired jerseys don't count? I broke the flow of the question. What Tar Heel who has eligibility left would be the best fit for this team? I think my choice, Doug says, has to be John Henson. And then he gave the qualification, it has to be a player whose jersey is not retired. And I'm assuming, Doug, you mean retired, and it's okay to use players whose jerseys are honored, like are hanging but not retired. So I hope I'm interpreting that correctly. I like that John Henson fit, man. I think he would be great for this team. Bouncy dude inside, can do a lot. I'm all in on that. I went with 2, a point guard and another front court player. For the point guard, give me Ty Lawson, man. Got 1 year eligibility left, so he fits within the framework of this question. I think about him in place of Elliot Cadeau. Not that I want to take Elliot off this team, but think about Ty with Seth and RJ, because Ty has the shooting confidence. Like junior year Ty Lawson, give me that with this team. Get out of here, man. That's insane. The assists, the shooting, the speed, couple that with Seth and RJ. Oh my gosh, that would be insane. And then another guy that has 3 years of eligibility left that I think was just scratching the surface, that I think would add the rebounding, the shot blocking, the brute strength. Day'Ron Sharpe. That was a little under the radar choice for me, but as I was thinking about this, I was like, I'd lay on Day'Ron. Give me some Day'Ron. So, Doug, that's who I'm going with. Same thing. I could have gone with a multitude of other guys, but those are the 2 that I picked. One more question in segment 1 here. This one comes from another of our Locked On Tar Heels insiders, Ed Inslee. I think Ed actually has another question later in the show, but Ed says, with us missing out on AJ DeBanza, if we also miss on Caleb Wilson, do you think we can still build a national title contender just through the portal? And I'm assuming, Ed, that you mean specifically next year, since AJ and Caleb will both be freshmen in college next year. Ed goes on to say, with the extra COVID years now over, as a reminder, folks, this is the last year. Like RJ's class is the last one that has that. We might see a couple hangers on next year because of medical red shirts or something, but by and large, this is it. With the COVID years now over, I don't think we will see as many leaving major teams. And as we have seen with Cade Tyson, it's a roll of the dice to take a mid-major and expect the same production. So a couple things here. First off, if Carolina, who has missed on AJ DeBanza and a whole host of other elite 25 players, what if Carolina also misses on Caleb Wilson? Can we still build a national title contender? Well, there's a couple things to this, Ed and others. I think it depends on who else comes back. Like if Seth Trimble's back with what he's doing right now, baby. RJ is gone. He's out of eligibility. We're assuming that Drake Powell and Ian Jackson will both be gone. But what if one or both of them came back? Elliot Cadeau, we'll see there. Are any of the front court players back? Can Cade Tyson find himself by year 2? There's a lot of things there. But I do think you can, Ed. I think you can build a national title contender basically through the transfer portal. You don't want to rely on that. The transfer portal is best when it's just spot strengthening, right? It's like, we have this one very specific need. Let's go get that guy rather than building a roster through the portal. Again, it's doable, but it would be like trying to solely rely on one and dones to win it. You're going to probably get a lot more production out of transfers than one and dones. depending on, makeup. You hear my point, because of their more years and experience. But it's not sustainable. So could they build through the portal? Yeah, absolutely. Is it a guarantee? 100% not. Because sometimes you hit, sometimes you miss. And then as the other part of the question, with extra COVID years now over, it will have an effect, because instead of, let's say 4.5 classes worth of players able to transfer, now you've just got 4, because you lose this year's seniors. They don't have COVID eligibility, and this year's 5th-year seniors, which is about probably half a class. Who knows how many it actually is. So now you only have, only is still a ton, but you only have 3 classes worth of potential transfers this year's freshmen, sophomores, and juniors. So in totality, the number theoretically should come down, although it'll still be a big number, because there is no one-time transfer anymore. It's free game right now. So I still think we will see a ton in the portal. I still think you can go get what you need in the portal. There might just be like one less guy per need or something like that. So how much effect will the extra COVID year being gone have? Tough to say until we see it, but it will have some, but I think maybe less than some of us are thinking. All right. What gifts is Santa Isaac bringing to the Tar Heels this year? Mary Mercer has granted me Santa status for a day, and I get to dole out some gifts. What's it going to be? We'll find that out in just a second. Right after I tell you about FanDuel, get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Because right now, new customers, if you bet $5 and you win, you get $150 back in bonus bets. Man, that's incredible. The FanDuel Sportsbook app, man, it gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. It's a great one-stop shopping, because then maybe you get a hunch in the middle of a game. You don't have to click off to other apps or anywhere else. You can find play-by-play, live scores, live stats, all of that on the same page, and so much more where you place your bets. How about this? Is wild. I went and I was like, I wonder if FanDuel happens just because of the Bill Belichick of it all, if they've got any odds or anything surrounding Carolina or Bill Belichick. Sure enough, FanDuel has win total futures for North Carolina football for 2025 season. The over-under is set at 7.5 right now. How's that for crazy? Go check it out at FanDuel if you want to get in on that action. FanDuel.com. So never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. All right, Mailbag Monday rolls on. This next one comes from our friend Mary Mercer. She specifically sent this question on Blue Sky, but I think we are connected to each other on all sorts of social media outlets. Mary says, I love this. If you could be Santa for a day, what gifts would you bring Carolina sports? I thought about this and I was like, I really want to do the 12 days of Isaacmas, but given 12 answers to this would just take too long on a mailbag show. So I narrowed it down. I just allowed myself 5. So we'll get to 5 golden rings. That's all we'll go to. And I'm also limited myself. This could nothing retroactive. Like we can't go back and Chris Jenkins not hit that shot, for example. I didn't allow myself that. So it's got to be within this academic year or beyond. Okay, good. Here's Isaac's 5 days of Tar Heel Christmas. Number 1. In 5 different sports I chose. I limited myself to 1 per sport. Number 1, for North Carolina basketball, I want to gift them a big man, a skilled big man with heft and scoring and defensive ability, scoring inside, all of that. That's what I would like to give Hubert Davis's team this year. My second gift, football success in the Bill Belichick era. The more I've been thinking about it, I want Carolina. Remember when Clemson just took off once Dabo took over? It was like year 3 before they were really rolling. I want Carolina to be that. Or somebody else suggested to me, I think it was in the chat of a show we did, that I wonder if he could be Bill Belichick like what Pete Carroll was for USC. I want that for Carolina, to have much football success, not just by Carolina standards, but by national standards. That's what I want this to be. How rad would that be? We'll see. Gift number 3. I want a Final Four. I'm going to gift. I'm gifting. I get to choose if this happens or not. I am gifting the women's basketball team a Final Four trip this season. They made a Sweet 16 under Coach Banghart. I think it was 4 seasons ago now. But that's as far as they've gone. They just keep running up into South Carolina, it seems like. Haven't been to the Final Four since the 06-07 season when they made back-to-back 05-06 and 06-07. Man, it's time. This team is looking good. I know, they lost to UConn, but outside of that, man, things have been looking really good. Obviously, I don't know what happened against Georgia Tech yesterday, but Carolina played number 25 Georgia Tech. We'll see. My fourth gift for the Tar Heels, field hockey. That team deserved to win the national championship this year. I hate that they did not. So I want to go back and give them a redo in the Final Four. I'm not just going to gift them the championship because I know they want to play it out, right? I want to gift them a redo of the Final Four match with St. Joe's, win that, and then go on to the championship and see what happens there. My fifth and final gift for the Tar Heels this year is going to be the Tar Heel baseball team. And my gift is health for the pitching staff, because I thought last year, I think Carolina performs like the pitchers that stepped in. My goodness, what a performance by those young men. But man, I thought Carolina's lack of depth because of the injuries really caught up to them in Omaha. And I think had they had that depth, I'm not saying they would have won, but they had a much better odds and opportunity. So I am gifting Coach Forbes' team a healthy pitching staff. You're welcome, Coach Scott Forbes. I hope you enjoy it. All right, next question. This comes from Nicole on Twitter. Isaac, what is going on with this team, meaning the men's basketball team? Thank you for all your coverage with the Tar Heels. My pleasure. I absolutely love it. Thanks for tuning in. It looks like we can't even make simple layups right now. Any idea why the offensive production is seemingly so low so far this year? First, let me say this, Nicole. It's not seemingly low offense all season long. It's really just like the last 5 games. In totality, Carolina is one of the highest scoring teams in the nation. They had been like top 5 in offensive efficiency. It's gone down a little bit, but it's really just these last couple games. Again, because of not being able to record this after the LaSalle game Saturday, I have nothing to say to that. But the 2 games prior to that, Michigan State and Georgia Tech, Carolina was under 1 point per possession for the first 2 times this season. So there's been this downturn. They can get it turned around. So I have 2 reasons why I think you're seeing what you're seeing, Nicole. Number 1, Elliot Cadeau had a great start to the season. I talked about this. I think it was on Friday's show. And it's just, he's run into some struggles. This is what happens to athletes sometimes, man. You can't always be at peak performance. So I think Elliot not being able to lead the team in the same way he had, and maybe he had a great game on Saturday, I hope he did, I think is hurting the offense because they look like a completely different team when he's either on the bench or struggling. And then secondly, the reason the offensive production, like in half court, for example, the sets, man, they're just not as tight and crisp. For me, it's because Carolina doesn't have a front court that the opposition respects. So what do? They're focusing the vast majority of their defensive attention on shutting down Carolina's elite guards. It's like, let's make the front court beat us because they're not proving that they can. So those are the 2 main reasons, Nicole, is that Elliot is in a little bit of a slump, and then no respect for the front court. This one this is the other one from Edward Inslee. Although he sent this question on Discord where he is Edward Beth. He said, I've said before, I'm seeing trends with Hubert Davis so far. Within the transfer era, coach's first year went good, the next year not so good, and so forth. I'm hoping we break the not so good streak because in the pattern, this would be the not so good streak. But 2 things. Do you think it's the step up to a major conference for some of our transfers? Or is the coaching staff missing on their evaluations of players and their fit on the team? That's a great question. Is this about the players' inability to translate up to an ACC level if they're transferring up instead of transferring across from another high major? Or is the coaching staff not doing a good job evaluating fit and talent, is how I would say. And I hope this isn't a cop-out, Ed, but I think it is probably some of both. But part of it is, think about how elongated high school recruiting is. You've got months and months and months and months and months, sometimes years. And sometimes it's shorter when somebody pops and you want to get in on them, sure. But while that might be crock pot recruiting, transfer portal is microwave recruiting. You don't have the same time to figure out everything you want. You can learn some stuff from talking to people, from watching some film, but it's not the same depth. And so sometimes you're just going to miss, whether it's thinking a player is going to translate like I did with Cade Tyson, who's not yet. He still might, but he's not right now. Or missing on personality. It's like, oh, we thought he'd be a great fit for our team culture. He's just not. All of that kind of stuff. So I think there is some of that. And let's be honest, though, Ed, it's not always the transfers that are coming up that struggle. Sometimes you have guys just going from one high major to another, and it's just a different situation, and it doesn't work. It doesn't click. So truly, I think so much of it is the transfer portal is a much more inexact science, because you just think about as Carolina brought back 4 of their starting 5 from the national championship runner-up team from 2022 to 2023. So many of us thought, essentially the same guys, it's going to be fine. But it's a completely different dynamic with new people, some gone, some in. It's that same kind of thing. You just cannot just say, he was great here, he will definitely be great here. And that's part of the transfer portal. That's my answer anyway. Last one in this segment. This comes from our friend Marion, who is an insider. And Marion, this is such a sweet question, Marion. Thank you. She says, what can we do to support the team, meaning the men's basketball team, to help boost their morale? I don't know how to get a message to them or anything like that. This is, Marion, so sweet. Because I think Marion is recognizing adroitly that the team has been kind of down at times as they've gone through this losing streak, this tough patch that they've gone through. And they're not in that because they beat Georgia Tech. I'm assuming they beat LaSalle on Saturday. Again, I'm recording this before that. But the guys, it feels like they need a pick-me-up. Maybe it was just getting through finals, right? Spending some time together as guys and getting to that. But Marion wants to know what we can do to support the team. I've just got 3 quick things. Number 1, support them. There is so much negativity out there, whether it's on social media or just in person or signs again, I don't know, whatever it is. So support them. And I know you're not doing this, Marion. I'm talking to everybody right now. Don't denigrate them. These are humans. These are, in a lot of cases, teenage humans who are still learning how to reckon with the world around them. And I know they're putting themselves in very public spheres and situations, and I get that. But you wouldn't want somebody showing up at your workplace and yelling at you and telling you suck and you're doing a terrible job. That's what these kids are like 18, 19, 20 years old and going through that, man. So just don't do that. Don't tear them down. And by the way, if you see somebody else doing it, stop them. Tell them to knock it off and don't be a knucklehead. All right. So, Marion, I think that's the first thing. Number 2, show up. If you're somebody that lives in the vicinity of the Smith Center, man, get there. That building is so massive and it's hard to pack it out. Go support these guys in person. If you're someone that's at near a road location, man, go buy the other team's tickets and turn that arena Carolina blue. Do it. Show up for these guys when there's the opportunity. And third, legitimately, like Marion, this is old school, but you could write a letter to the basketball office. I don't know if it'll get through, but it might. And I think it might be really meaningful. Like, words of encouragement matter so much to people. Let's not miss that. And not just these basketball players. Like, write a letter to somebody you love and you miss and you haven't talked to in a while. It means the world. I love it. Great question, Marion. All right. One more segment, several more questions to get to. How is the Bill Belichick era going to influence NIL at Carolina and other sports at the university? We'll get to that in just a second. But first, let me tell you what TNT has going on with the college football playoff. It's that time of year. The college football playoff is back. And with the newly expanded 12-team format, it's guaranteed to be bigger and better than ever, bringing you all the hard-hitting and high-flying excitement that you love. TNT Sports coverage of the college football playoff begins December 21st, starting with the college football playoff kickoff show presented by AT&T at 11 p.m. Eastern. Leading into our first matchup, the SMU Mustangs battling the Penn State Nittany Lions at noon. You know what? I said 11 p.m. I'm pretty sure I meant 11 a.m. Excuse me there. Then right after that, Clemson Tigers look to upset the Texas Longhorns in a showdown at 4 p.m. Eastern. Don't miss a moment of the action. Watch the college football playoff presented by Allstate live on TNT, True TV, TBS, and Max. Mailbag Monday. We got a couple more questions to get to as we wrap up here on Monday. This comes from Michael Rich from Twitter. Michael says, if Bill Belichick is the football hire, this question obviously came in before that was made known. Yes, he is the hire. in your opinion, how does his 400-page quote Bible and the subsequent GM job that's created influence UNC's NIL, and will it affect basketball and other sports? This is a great question for Michael. Man, it's first off, I think it's great. I am all in on especially the major sports having a GM, and not just a GM, but like a GM staff, which is what Carolina is going to do now. You need it. It should, in this more professionalized era of college athletics, it should not be on the head coach to be the one. Like, think about it in basketball terms. The transfer portal, which thankfully now is going to open later, but still during the NCAA tournament. A coach should not be having to try, whether head or assistant, should not be trying to prepare for your next opponent and fielding calls about transfer portal players. The GM and the GM staff should be doing that. So Michael Lombardi is going to be the GM. He was a GM with Coach Belichick at New England, won, I think, 3 Super Bowls alongside of him. And so I think that's great. And I think it's going to influence UNC's NIL in very positive ways, both in terms of getting opportunities for these young men and picking who should be part of the roster, all of that. And then secondly, Michael says, will it affect basketball and other sports? I'm really hopeful that it will. I'm a firm believer. Like, one of the questions people have asked me is, do you think with all the money given to football, it's going to be a negative for basketball? I don't think so. I think it's a rising ship that raises, or a rising tide that raises all ships. And I think that's ultimately a good thing. And so it's great. I'm all in on it, and I think it's going to be a positive. This comes from Panther Tar Heel on Twitter, who asked, in reference to UNC women's soccer winning the national championship, so is it 22 or 23 championships? Because I keep seeing both numbers. So I wanted to answer this because I've been asked this question a multitude of times since the national championship, and I just want to clear it up because it's a great question. The answer, Panther Tar Heel, is actually both. It's just in the semantics of what you're actually talking about. Here's what I mean. UNC women's soccer does have 23 national championships, but only 22 of those are NCAA tournament championships. Reason being, there was one prior. Carolina won a national championship in 1981. That was before the NCAA started having women's soccer and a women's soccer national championship. That was the AIAW, Association for Intercollegiate Athletics for Women championship. And then the NCAA championship started in 1982. Of course, Carolina won the first 3 of those, as they do. It's kind of similar to men's basketball, right? The Carolina men's basketball has 7 national championships. 6 of those are NCAA tournament championships, 1957, 82, 93, 05, 09, and 17. But there was also the 1924 national championship that was given by the Helms Foundation. It was not an NCAA championship. So it really is all in the semantics. So you just have to be careful and specific with how you say it. So North Carolina women's soccer has 22 NCAA championships and 23 total national championships. Hope that makes sense and clears it up for everybody. There you go. This one comes from Harpoon on Discord. Harpoon actually asked a couple questions. Let's see if we can roll through them really quick. What do you think the top 3 best North Carolina athletic programs for the 24-25 academic year are or are going to be? Or in other words, which sport should fans look to tune into? Well, unfortunately, I think 2 of the 3 have already happened. Women's soccer, who just won the national championship, and the field hockey team that lost in the Final Four but should have won. Those 2 teams are dominant teams. But another one that I think is going to be really good again this year is the baseball team. There's no men's or women's baseball team. There's softball. The baseball team, I expect to be really good again. I know they lose like a generational player in Vance Honeycutt and several others, but they're bringing a lot back, and I trust in Coach Forbes and the staff. I think the baseball team is going to be rearing to go again. Let me give an honorable mention to women's tennis. I think they took a step back last year. Some of that was injuries. But I think they're not going to be quite at the height they were 2 years ago when they won the national championship, but they've got a lot of strong ladies back. And then men's golf, which has been knocking on the door of the national championship. They lost a couple as well, but I think they're going to be good again. Here's Harpoon's second. A more basketball related question would be, with the clear lack of talent in the ACC compared to other power conferences and the ever-changing landscape of college sports, when do you think Carolina makes the change to a different conference? If they choose that path, in what conference do they go to? First off, I still grieve the potential loss of the ACC. That hurts me. But I'm on board with, like, if you got to go, you got to go. I get that. So I think it'll be within the next 2 years. I think the landscape is changing so much, and Carolina is such a desirable product that at some point it's going to have to happen. So I'm going to say it's announced within 2 years, and then the changes within the next 5. So that would be by like 2029. Yikes. That's crazy to think about. And then what conference do they go to? I'm just going to continue to say the Big Ten. That's what I've said all along. It's the conference profile of the Big Ten fits Carolina much more than the SEC. However, I guess we do have to recognize that as conferences are bloating, some of that conference identity is going away. So it wouldn't surprise me to see the SEC. So I would say Big Ten first, SEC second. And finally, from Harpoon, this is kind of one of those fun personal questions. I love these, y'all. Keep them coming. And he says, and by far the most important question, with winter, semester break, and Christmas right around the corner, what is the go-to Christmas food at the Shady household? I appreciate that. We call our house the Shady Acres. So there you go. Here's what I'm going to give you, Harpoon. It's not just like a snack that's sitting out, but we have like these Christmas traditions, multiple of which revolve around food. So, for example, like a decade ago, we were decorating and just had Home Alone on in the background, and it got us all hungry for pizza because that's what Kevin McAllister's eating the whole time. So that year after we finished decorating, we ordered pizza and sat down and watched another movie. So now that's a Shade family tradition. Every year when we decorate, we turn on Home Alone and then Home Alone 2. That's where you stop because none of the rest of them count because there's no Macaulay Culkin. And then for dinner after that, we eat pizza. It's so fun. I think we went to like 3 different pizza places because we all wanted it from somewhere else this year. Another one. My wife loves the movie Love Actually. I've come to fall in love with it as well. I think it's so fun. One year, Maggie, my wife, her birthday is in December. So one year for her birthday, we watched Love Actually and made like some Japanese hibachi style food. And now we've given up on making it. We just order it and get it. So every year we watch Love Actually and eat like sushi, big sushi fans in the Shade household, and like Japanese hibachi style food as well. So there you go. And then the last one is, you're familiar with Pioneer Woman? We love one of her recipes called penne alla Betsy. It's this great penne pasta with like a red and white kind of mixed, and it's got shrimp in it. Man, it's super good. I like to put some sun-dried tomatoes in there, spice it up a little bit as well. Great stuff. So there you go, Harpoon. Great question. I love the personal question. Last thing I want to do today, and then we'll get out of here. I just want to say a massive word of thanks to the Mayberry family. Brandon Mayberry is a guy we DM quite a bit on Twitter. And he reached out and was like, hey, my wife wrote this kid's book and I'd love to send you one. And man, this is such a kind gesture. Thank you, Brandon. Thank you, Sarah, for writing this book. I'm going to show it so people can see it if you're watching on YouTube. I've left it in its wrapper because it's so beautiful. I'm going to open it soon and read it with my kids, but it's All the Things I Love Are in North Carolina, written and illustrated by Sarah Mayberry. Sarah, this is great. I cannot wait to read it. Thank you. And thank you guys for lending me one of these. I'm excited to share it with my family as well. Great stuff. But even more cool than that, the Mayberry's son Avery wrote my family. I don't know if you can see it because it's like pencil. There you go. If I hold it down, and it's just a beautiful Christmas tree. And Avery says, hello, Shade family. It's so sweet. I love this. I hope you have a very Merry Christmas. Your friend, Avery. Avery, thank you. This is awesome. I'm going to hang it up at my house with all our Christmas cards so that we can remember. Thank you. Really appreciate it. All right, guys. Mailbag Monday. Super fun. I love these mailbag episodes. If you want to drop some in, join the Locked On Tar Heels Discord where we have a mailbag channel. You can drop them in there. If you're a Locked On Tar Heels insider, you can just send them to me. You can text them. And again, I always give priority to those insider questions as well. If you haven't subscribed to the show on YouTube, make sure you do that. We're trying to get to 10,000 subscribers in 3 years, and we're so stinking close. It's going to come right down to it. Please help us do that. Subscribe right now. Hit that button. All right. If you're not in the Locked On Tar Heels Discord, do it. Links in the show notes. Easy and free to join. Locked On Tar Heels Insider. Same thing. Link is in the show notes. Always a great day to be a Tar Heel. We'll be back tomorrow. I'm back live, so we'll be in real time now, finally, getting you ready for the Florida game, and then we'll go live after the game. I'm going to be a little bit late because my sweet son, got a speaking part in his school Christmas thing, and that is Tuesday night. And so we're going to be at that, but then I'll get back and we'll get it going, right? Family first, always. I hope you remember that. Sports is awesome, but family first. So anyway, it's always a great day to be a Tar Heel. We'll be back again tomorrow, but until then, peace.